Hey guys, we're going back to armor this week and looking at another girls and Panzer kit, which we haven't done in a fair while, with Platz's 1/35th scale Panther G kit. So let's open her on up and take a look. Alright, first up we've got our main body upper half, as well as a couple different stylings for the surface hatches. We then have a sprue of all the odds and end detail parts for the various equipment that'll go on, tools and what have you. Not a whole lot to say here on that one. Moving up, and I'm only going to show one of these, is sprue for wheels, as well as our suspension. Now, on this kit, they chose to basically do independent suspension, so you'll be able to very nicely, get the suspension how you want, either like it's going over terrain, sitting on the street, what have you. So that's a nice inclusion, though it does raise how complicated it is to build. So that is something to be aware of. We also got a couple of odd and end detail parts on this one as well. Some extra track links and guide horns for those. Kit comes with rubber tracks. Made comments on just the quality of this style of tracks before, so it's been hit and miss. So obviously that is something to be aware of. Continuing on, we've got all the various parts for the turret, including the upper and lower body parts of it, as well as the back, the gun, which is a single cast piece, with the various components for the muzzle brake, various cupolas, and of course the rear gun itself. So that is nice that it does include some of the inner workings if you want to pose it with the commander having their head out the hatch. Continuing on, we've got side skirt parts, as well as a few other odds and ends on some of the vent screens, and obviously the machine gun. Next up, we've got our drive sprocket and various other components to build up some of the return wheels and other detail parts to go with the rear of the tank for various exhaust components and some additional suspension parts. Speaking of the rear of the tank, we've got our main backplate, as well as some of the engine area components, all the exhausts and what have you. A couple different parts for the gun as well on this sprue. A couple different styles for the mantle, as well as these rear parts for the back of the tank. Some more detail parts for various areas of the tank. Sorry, got that a little low. And yeah, casting is great on all of these. If you've seen a lot of these, you've seen them all. Two of that sprue. Our main body of the hull, typical casting you'd expect. And lastly, as far as sprue parts go, we've got a sprue of clear parts for the various lenses. Now, some kits I've seen do these, it was molded on, and you basically just paint them black. Here we have it as clear. So this would be one area I would say pay careful attention to your assembly, as it may be a lot easier just to leave them off until you finish the assembly, and then stick them on then. Excuse me, forgot to open the decal sheet. If I can get this open, apologies. So anyway, on to decals. Only given a single sheet decal for one vehicle, as well as a character decal to add on. Not a whole lot I really need to say there. Typical clear register. You get this back in, and we'll then move on to the instructions. Okay. Assembly on this kit, in particular, the suspension area is very complicated. This is not something you can really go in unprepared for, as there's a lot of areas where, especially in here, where if you don't do it correctly, you're going to have problems. So this is one, definitely take your time and go slow and keep checking the instructions so as to make sure you do it right. And then additionally, because of all the various detailed parts you're going to need to put on, this is a pretty involved and complicated build. So once you get through, though, it'll build up quite nicely. The issue is getting through. Now, this is not a easy kit by any stretch of the means. Obviously, since it is a tank, more or less a single color overall, so painting it will be fairly easy. And going from there, it's pretty much a downhill from there. So overall, this kit is definitely not for beginners by any stretch of the imagination. It is very complicated, and it will be very time consuming. You really need to know what you're doing and when to do it. So given that, this is definitely not one I would recommend for anyone but more advanced model builders, just because the amount of skill it's going to need to do this and do it right. But once you do build it up, it will look very nice. It will be overall a very high quality model once it's built. Key thing there, once it's built. So that was a quick look at Platz's 1/35th scale Panther G kit and markings for grills and Panzer. Until next time.